Hey, this is Paolo from Trivium, and you're colliding with YellMagazine.com.
So congratulations on In Waves. It's your highest charting album to date.
Thank you very much.
How important are the charts to you guys?
I mean, I guess, overall CD sales are definitely down, but if you just kind of look at it relatively being higher up, I mean, that's still really killer.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, as long as people are buying CDs and coming out to shows, I mean, that's really all that's important.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we're stoked. I mean, we couldn't have asked for a better start to the album, and now it's been out for like 7 or 8 months and still doing great, and we're still getting to new audiences, so there's still a lot of legs left on the album. When we play the stuff live, it's great. It fits really well with our old stuff, which is really important.
Mm-hmm.
I think
it's a bit more melodic, a little bit softer, I find.
I think it's just more diverse because we have there's some songs that are heavier, more energetic. I think overall it's definitely one of our most energetic albums, and when we play it live, I feel that way. You can kind of tell when the crowd not loses energy, but it's like kind of more watching you play the song as opposed to like just feeling it and being into it, which I feel like this album is more like that when we play the songs. But it's just it's a little bit more diverse. I think it's because we wrote it over such a long period of time, and when we started writing it, Travis was still in the band. When we finished it, Nick was the new drummer.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a good chunk of time. And we had a lot of material. We had to kind of sort through so much stuff, and some was heavier, some was softer, and we tried to find the middle ground for what we had written.
Okay. And you brought up Nick. I wanted to ask how the fans are responding to him.
I think kids love Nick. I mean, he's an incredible drummer, and live, I mean, there's no comparison. Nick just, he's got this like really energetic, almost jazzy style to his playing, and when we play the old stuff, it's like new life to them.
Okay.
We played Pull Harder thousands of times at this point, and to say that it still has that same intensity to this day, and especially with Nick playing it, I mean, that says a lot, because the three of us have been playing that song forever,
right?
And it still feels fun to play.
Okay.
So I think that says a lot about his playing.
Yeah, and you as the bassist have a unique relationship with the drummer, the percussionist. Did you guys mesh right away? Or?
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing is Nick and I actually have known each other since we were like 6.
Okay.
And we started our first band together, so we played a lot when we were younger. Even before the band we started, we played just me and him in his room, whether I was playing bass or maybe playing guitar a little bit, and definitely always had a good connection musically, and we were always good friends. So it was a really easy transition having Nick back into the band. I think that there was no problems there, and it was cool. It took, it's taken us even to now, even past the CD, to really finally, I think, say that we've meshed 100% as a band with Nick in the band, because he brought his style in, we had ours, and it was kind of rediscovering ourselves. And I think In Waves, to me, was like the start over. That was the redo for Trivium. And the next album, we're already writing it, and it's just more exciting now because it's going to be the first time we've really had a clean slate with writing where Nick's the drummer, and we're writing with that in mind. And it's I don't know, we really are just stoked again to be a band. I mean, not that we haven't been in the last 7 years, but I think more so now than ever. It's like, wow, we're definitely way tighter than we've been. We feel good when we play live, and it's just a really good feeling to be in that position like 7 years into it.
What was different about the recording and writing process for In Waves?
I mean, the biggest difference is that we were really having fun.
Okay.
We definitely had some tense times during Crusade and Shogun, and not only did me, Corey, and Matt kind of learn as writers how to write together and take criticism better just over time. Nick was just a more creative force in the warehouse.
Okay. And you're talking a lot about writing as a group, like in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
Is that typical for you guys? Or?
Once someone brings in an idea, we'll write together.
Okay.
We'll jam stuff together. But it's just like the logistics of like not being able to like go home and sit in a warehouse for 8 weeks at a time. Mm-hmm. That we have to kind of we have to write on our own. And I kind of like that. I like when someone comes in with a good chunk of stuff or a good idea. And nowadays with the computers, I mean, we'll write, we can show each other, and we can change stuff on the fly.
Right.
And for Nick, it's the toughest because he'd like to be behind his own kit to kind of jam it out. Mm-hmm. But we've definitely learned how to best utilize the technology of recording on the road and working together like that. Mm-hmm. And also when we get off tour, just knowing that if you have 8 weeks off, 2 weeks of that, 3 weeks of that should be practicing or jamming or writing new stuff. I mean, you have to give that kind of off-the-road dedication to keep your band in like fighting shape.
Right. And Matt has said In Waves was inspired by cinema. Are there any movies or directors in particular?
I know like lyrics and some visual stuff was inspired by there's this movie called Antichrist by Lars Von Trier. It's a really weird movie. It's really fucked up actually. That was one of them. I know there was a couple others, and just I think that's where Matt was drawing a lot of inspiration. Not necessarily like that it was giving him ideas for the actual lyrics. I think it was just getting him in a creative mindset to write. Sometimes going and watching a movie or going to a museum, just experiencing life things tends to lead to a little bit more creative output.
Right.
I definitely kind of felt that as well.
Okay. Opening up some emotions.
Yeah, I think that's the key. I mean, when you're writing music, you're trying to capture an emotion, and the lyrics obviously are trying to convey some kind of emotion or story.
Right.
And a lot of times, movies definitely do help. I think books as well for me. I like to read a lot.
Okay.
And that definitely just gets your mind thinking.
What are you reading now?
I'm reading a book called The Outliers. It's like this, I forget the author's name, but the dude that wrote it, he's kind of like trying to find what makes people that are successful, what is it that makes them that? And his whole point is that it's not necessarily like that they were these geniuses or there's all these different circumstances. Mm-hmm. And he goes through things like basketball, the first chapter he talks about what is the league for like junior hockey players here, the big leagues like junior A,
AAA,
something like that.
Yeah.
He goes through it, and the whole thing is that he did this whole thing where he looked back and every player on the roster, like 80 to 90% of them were born between the months of January and March.
Okay.
And the whole reason his whole thing is that there's a cutoff. It's like January 1st. So anyone that was born in the 3 months after January 1st have the best chance of getting, onto better teams, because when you've had a year of maturity, like say when you start when you're like 7 or 8, a year of difference is a big thing. When you get older, it's not as big of a thing. But because they're doing these like cutoffs, it gives those kids, it's like a skewed thing. So those kids in those 3 months have a better chance to get into better leagues, play more, and it all snowballs into that. It's a weird thing, and I'm like, wow, that's really crazy. But now he's talking about the whole thing of like genius, and that there's a certain point where IQ doesn't make any difference. It's like you being successful. It's a really just an interesting, I guess, what would be like a sociological kind of book. I really haven't read anything like this. Can't think. Probably since school. And then the last couple of books I've read are just like music books. Duff's new book.
Oh, is that good?
The Metallica, Enter Sandman. It's really good.
Okay. I'm reading The Dirt.
Yeah, Dirt's awesome.
The Dirt's pretty good. Yeah, I wanted to talk about like the videos in Waves and Built to Fall.
Yeah.
They're really cinematic.
Yeah.
Did you guys have creative input on that?
Yeah, we talked to Ramon, who's done all our videos since Becoming the Dragon, and we were like, we want to do something a little different. We don't want to perform in the videos, but we want to be in them.
Right.
Like, part of it, not necessarily acting. I don't know, not just like I guess a normal acting thing, but be a part of it and just really be outside the box and weird with it. And we gave him some of our ideas, he gave us his, and it all kind of met in the middle and became those videos. It was definitely it's been a challenge because you're not just showing up and miming the song and cutting it to a bunch of fast-paced things.
Yeah.
In Waves was definitely, I think, very unique that it wasn't cut and synced up to the song. It was at its own pace. It got to where it needed to be on its own timeline. And that was kind of an inspiration from the guy that did the artwork.
Right.
His whole thing, like, he gave us kind of this idea of, people expect things to be done in a certain thing, or they want to know the resolution of something right away. And it's like, maybe this album, the videos don't need to have a conclusion right away. Maybe it needs to take its time to become that. And that was a really, like, kind of blew our minds. We're like, oh, that's a really cool idea, so we should try that.
So you don't have the ending
There's no
planned
end
at all?
planned. I mean,
no?
we're going to do a video for Black, hopefully, and that's the next single, so we'll see if we do a video or not for it. So hopefully it would be cool to do another video. I don't know where it would go. We just want to just really push the box with it, and I don't think it'll be something we do every album or ever again. It could be a one-time thing. It was just something different, and I think people have definitely noticed it, and we've gotten so many questions about it that I think it has definitely intrigued people enough to at least want to ask us, like, what made us do it, why, and hopefully kind of try to figure out what the hell was going on in the videos.
You came up with the riff for Shattering the Skies Above, and it came from that, like, camera sound in the trailer for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is a sound that affected me as well. Are you a big horror fan?
I do like a lot of horror movies. I mean, I can't say that I'm like one of those like aficionados that knows everything inside and out about them, but I definitely love them, and I like watching documentaries about them, and I mean, it's good to have a good scare sometimes. Some of the newer movies are a little, it's more about like just making people jump scares. It's not as like, I like the ones that are like really like kind of cerebral, like psychological, like horror movies that are like really fucked up. Those are the best. I'm scared of
ghost and religious horrors.
Those are really usually creepy. If it's done right, I mean, that's definitely a scary one.
Is anybody else in the band into horror, or?
Yeah, Matt's into that as well. I mean, I guess probably everyone is, but I think Matt's definitely a big movie buff and stuff. He knows a lot about some of the foreign stuff, especially like the Korean, Japanese movies. Some of those Korean flicks are really terrifying and bizarre.
Well, I'm asking these horror-related questions because our site covers horror movies as well.
That's awesome.
And we cover video games.
Matt's way into that.
Do you play video games?
I used to play a lot of games in school. I was definitely into like Medal of Honor when I was out. I don't know, like I just kind of, not that I lost interest because I do enjoy playing games here and there, but I don't know if I'm like as big into the games that are coming out now. I feel some of them are just so complex and in-depth, and almost they kind of feel like antisocial. And I used to love games in arcades. I used to love going to arcades. And we actually went to, in Portland, we went to this place. It was a barcade. It was a bar arcade. Old school games like Mortal Kombat,
Golden Axe,
everything. And it was so badass. And I used to love that stuff. Going to arcades and like, put the quarters up on the thing to play the guy next. And it was this is cool. You don't get that anymore. You can play millions of people online, but you never know them. You never have that experience of like going out and actually enjoying a game and out in the open in public.
Having Karate Kid there.
It's really cool.
Okay. Thank you very much
Thank you
for the time.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good show.